In the quiet suburbs of Chasetown, Staffordshire, Richard Deacon was known as a respectable businessman and a devoted family man. To the outside world, he appeared to live a charmed life, surrounded by his loving girlfriend and their 2 daughters. His home on Midway Street was a reflection of his success, filled with the comforts that came from hard work and ambition. But beneath this polished exterior lay a web of intrigue and danger, for Deacon was more than just a businessman. He was deeply intertwined with the dark underbelly of organized crime. As the years rolled into 2010, whispers began to circulate within the community. Although Deacon was not one to flaunt his wealth, his lifestyle raised eyebrows. People speculated about his connections, the influential circles he moved in, and the shadows that seemed to linger around him. Was his financial success truly the result of legitimate business dealings, or were there more sinister sources fueling his rise? The truth was elusive, and in the world of organized crime, rumors can build a reputation just as effectively as solid evidence. Staffordshire had long been a hotspot for organized crime, particularly in the distribution of illegal drugs. The region served as a corridor for the movement of narcotics between major cities like Birmingham and Manchester. It was no secret that Deacon's name was linked, even if only indirectly, to this illicit network. As his wealth and influence grew, so did the number of eyes watching him, eyes that belonged to rival gangs and law enforcement alike. The Midlands criminal underworld was notorious for its brutal rivalries, with various factions vying for control over lucrative drug territories. As Deacon climbed the ranks of this treacherous game, he became a person of interest not only to the police, but also to dangerous individuals within the underworld. There was a constant threat looming over him, a dark cloud that hinted at the violent reality of the life he had chosen. The more successful he became, the more perilous his position grew, making him a potential target for those who felt threatened by his rising power. By mid-2010, the situation had escalated. Richard Deacon was marked for death, a calculated decision made by individuals who operated in the shadows. This was no random act. It was a premeditated strike by serious players in the criminal game. The careful planning behind the hit revealed a chilling truth. Deacon had begun to step on the toes of figures far more powerful than himself, and in this world, such mistakes often came at a fatal cost. The planning of a murder. David Harrison, a hired gun with connections to the criminal underworld, was chosen to execute the hit. Harrison was no novice. He had a reputation for getting the job done efficiently and without hesitation. For weeks, he meticulously mapped out Deacon's daily routines, studying his movements and identifying the opportune moment to strike. Every detail was scrutinized, from the layout of Deacon's home to the times when he would be most vulnerable. On the morning of July 5, 2010, the plan was set into motion. Around 8:30 a.m., as Deacon lay in bed, a black Vauxhall Corsair pulled up outside his home. Clad in dark clothing, a balaclava, and blue latex gloves, David Harrison stepped out of the car, ready to carry out his deadly mission. He crossed the garden and entered the property with ease, slipping inside without alerting anyone. There was no struggle, no chaos, just a quick and professional execution. Harrison made his way to the bedroom where Deacon lay unsuspecting, completely unaware of the impending danger. In a matter of moments, multiple shots were fired at point-blank range into Deacon's chest. The weapon of choice, a sawn-off shotgun, was designed for maximum impact at close range, ensuring that the job was done efficiently. Deacon never had a chance. After carrying out the murder, Harrison exited the house as calmly as he had entered. The entire act took mere minutes. Neighbors who witnessed his arrival were already on the phone with the police, unaware that a man's life had just been extinguished within those walls. The aftermath. The police were quick to respond to the scene. Officer David Challinor was among the first to enter the house, where he discovered the grim reality of the situation. The getaway car, abandoned and left in a nearby field, became a focal point for investigators. It was clear that they were dealing with a professional hit, not a random act of violence, but leads were limited, and the case seemed shrouded in mystery. However, law enforcement was determined to get to the bottom of this shocking crime. As they pieced together the evidence, they became aware of Deacon's associations within certain criminal circles, and those connections soon led them to David Harrison. The murder had been executed with chilling precision, but the planning and execution left behind traces that could not be ignored. In December 2010, the murder case was featured on a special episode of BBC's Crime Watch. The show proved instrumental in drawing attention to the investigation, broadcasting CCTV footage of Harrison entering and leaving Deacon's home. This footage became key in identifying Harrison as the gunman, generating new leads for the police. During the Crime Watch appeal, a $20,000 reward was announced for information leading to the capture of those involved. This prompted a significant breakthrough in the investigation. A former criminal associate of Harrison, Alan Cash, recognized him from the footage aired on the program. Cash identified Harrison based on his build, posture, and a unique detail. The balaclava he wore had a mouthpiece sewn shut, a trademark used by Harrison to conceal his missing teeth. The capture. The exposure from Crime Watch was pivotal in moving the investigation forward. Without it, police feared the case might have stalled indefinitely. Harrison's arrest, however, did not come immediately. Aware that the net was tightening around him, he had gone into hiding, managing to evade capture for several months. But as police continued to track down those connected to the planning and execution of the hit, the pressure mounted. Eventually, the authorities located Harrison, and upon searching his vehicle, they discovered blue latex gloves that closely resembled those worn by the gunman in the CCTV images. Further investigations led them to his home in Folkingham, where police found a trove of incriminating evidence, including wigs, masks, and nearly $26,000 in cash. Harrison's ability to execute the murder had drawn attention, but it was the network of people around him, those who orchestrated the hit, that ultimately led to his downfall. As the investigation continued to unfold, it became increasingly clear that this was not just a case of a lone gunman, but rather a carefully orchestrated hit involving several players in the criminal underworld. The trial. In December 2012, David Harrison and his accomplice Daryl Dickens stood trial for the murder of Richard Deacon at Birmingham Crown Court. The prosecution painted Harrison as a contract killer and Dickens as his trusted associate, responsible for driving the getaway car. Both men hailing from Bilston faced a jury presented with crucial evidence connecting them to Deacon's murder. Harrison, a career criminal with a history of violent crime and weapons charges, was identified as the shooter who executed Deacon while he lay defenseless in bed. Key evidence included the CCTV footage of Harrison entering Deacon's home and phone records that placed him in the vicinity of the house on multiple occasions leading up to the murder. Daryl Dickens was implicated as the getaway driver. The prosecution argued that he had scouted the location with Harrison in the weeks prior to the murder. The black Vauxhall Corsair used during the hit, which was later dumped nearby, was traced back to the duo. Their appearances in the CCTV footage further solidified the case against them. Throughout the 6-week trial, both men denied their involvement, but the jury found them guilty. Harrison received a life sentence with a minimum of 37 years behind bars, while Dickens, considered less culpable yet equally involved, was handed a life sentence with a minimum of 30 years. Harrison showed no remorse during the trial and maintained his innocence, while Dickens attempted to appeal his conviction, claiming the identification as the driver was flawed. However, both appeals ultimately failed. The unanswered questions. Despite the convictions, the murder of Richard Deacon left behind many unanswered questions. From the start, it was evident that this was a hired job, yet the identity of the person who ordered the hit remained shrouded in mystery. Investigations eventually pointed to one name: John Anslow, a notorious drug kingpin from Tipton. Anslow was not just another criminal. He was a powerful figure in the regional drug trade, known for his large-scale trafficking operations. His involvement in Deacon's murder was speculated, especially given the timing and circumstances surrounding the crime. Anslow had made headlines in January 2012 when he executed a daring escape from a prison van while being transported to court. This audacious act made him a legend in the underworld and a prime suspect in Deacon's murder. However, in 2015, after a lengthy trial, Anslow was cleared of all charges related to Deacon's murder due to insufficient evidence. The police's suspicions had not led to a conviction, and to this day, the true mastermind behind the hit remains unknown. No one else has been charged, and the case is regarded as closed, with the police stating they were not looking for anyone else in connection with the murder. The legacy. Richard Deacon's family has always maintained a level of silence about his life and death. The tragic nature of his murder left an indelible mark on his loved ones, who grappled with the duality of his existence as a family man and a figure in organized crime. While the world outside continued to view him as a businessman, those close to him understood the complexities of his life, the choices he made, the risks he took, and ultimately, the consequences of living in the shadows. As the dust settled on the murder and subsequent trials, the legacy of Richard Deacon lived on, a stark reminder of the dangers lurking behind the facade of respectability. His story encapsulates the perilous intersection of crime and family, ambition and danger, a cautionary tale for those who dare to dance with the darker elements of society. In the end, the saga of Richard Deacon serves as a chilling testament to the reality of organized crime in the Midlands, a world where loyalty is fleeting, trust is a luxury, and the price of ambition can often be paid in blood. The streets of Chasetown may have returned to their quiet state, but the echoes of Deacon's life and untimely death linger on, a haunting reminder of the dangers that lie just beneath the surface.